And there we are, folks, off-brand because I hit the wrong intro. So that's the one we got tonight.
I think you need to play the correct intro. I am not Gary B, the Casual Comic Guy. Play the real intro.
Right.
Do it now.
I know,
I want to see that Jimmy sticker come across the screen. That's my favorite part.
You know what? I think I have to re-download it. It's not there because I was fooling around with stuff and I accidentally deleted it. So
how convenient. How convenient.
Yeah, how convenient.
Right?
Jeez.
Everybody's got to have
his channel. It's got his logo. It's got his theme.
I mean, and it's early on. And it's already.
When you do business with the Don chip, you have to get creative and get attention any way you can when you got.
I understand. Yeah, hence the reason I'm in the hot seat with all the fire behind me to get attention from you guys.
And I'm telling you, it's got the good lighting going on.
Not the usual suspects, it's the casual suspect.
That's right.
There we go. Yes, very much so.
Chop and drop. Now this guy's everywhere in everyone's chat. What a supporter of the community. Welcome in, Digger Jim. How you doing, sir? Free Key Louie, what's up, buddy? Caps, how you doing? Okay. All right, so tonight, guys, we are very honored to have in the hot seat Will from Cup of Comics. So, Will, how you doing tonight, sir? Introduce yourself. Let the people know about you a little bit.
All right, what's up? I got my my channel, Cup of Comics. I've been doing it for roughly over a year now. It's just a small little channel. I started off doing unboxings, and now I'm a little bit more into like comic reviews, sharing my comic hauls. Occasionally I'll have like a CGC thing. I still do mystery box. I just do a little bit of everything. I'm a jack of all and an ace of none. So, I like to just do what makes me have fun in the comic community, and what keeps me interested in it. So whether it's reading books and then sharing with whoever wants to listen what I thought about it, or opening a mystery box and having people laugh and saying, why are you wasting so much money when you just go buy a key? And it's like, well, half of it is the gambling aspect of it, right? You're taking a shot, you're seeing what's out there.
And that's funny too, though. People always tell you that, but they're always watching to see what you get.
Right.
Because it's content.
The most views I get are from mystery box videos.
And Gary B. Cup had one of the, we all did videos when Chris from Cardboard Crazies did that little kind of roast to Remy Q. And Cup had one of my top two, really probably my favorite submissions. Like that was phenomenal.
I was dying.
And also the stuff you did with Whack Comics is great.
Yeah.
Yes.
The Whack guys are the guys who kind of got me into doing those kind of videos, the little offshoots and stuff. And I have a few in the bag that I'll pull out occasionally. I might just do like one a month, just random people, random videos.
I got one I just shot for Whack Comics. I don't know when they plan on using it, but they got it over there already.
Nice.
So we'll see what happens with it.
It's good.
I forgot you saw it, Jimmy.
Yeah, I've seen it. It's good.
I tried to keep it under a minute. It went a minute 10, but but my goodness. So you're talking about mystery boxes. I mean, what's your favorite one to open?
I mean, they were all kind of really fun and nice and exciting when I first got my mystery boxes. And then I think occasionally with all mystery boxes, right, they give you a lot of good books, put a lot of hype out there, and then eventually, they cut back on the product that's in the box. But what I will say is that probably that Spider-Man booth, just because I've gotten things after I've ordered from them, because they keep going with raffles and stuff. So I've gotten a couple of extra things from them. They're probably one of my favorites. And then I do like the one I get every month, like clockwork, is the Comic Tom.
Oh, same here. Yeah. I love his exclusives. They're always beautiful. And every single time you get that box, just the two exclusives alone put it over value.
Yes. So the exclusives I like coming out of the box. And I feel like you get a lot more like Bronze Age stuff and Copper Age stuff in there. You don't really get silver, but a lot of the other boxes, you're just getting like modern variants. And after a while,
and that bugs me because like you, we're collectors. So whatever we want, we're picking up every week. We don't need it in a box.
Right.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
what's your favorite era of comic collecting?
That's a good one. Probably like the late 80s, early 90s. That's kind of when I was in it. That's when comics were a little bit more wordy. You got a little bit more, you got a few more pages out of it, got a lot more boxes of art instead of just big splash pages. Instead of reading through a comic in like 8 minutes, it took you a solid, 20, 25 minutes to read a comic, and I think that's when the comic world was really at its most creative peak because the writers were really writing and the artists were like really drawing. And now I feel like sometimes there's a lot of shortcuts. You can even see it with some of the older guys. They've already perfected their craft and they've made a way to like still show their style, but it still has a few less lines in it or a few less words. Everything just seems a little bit more compact these days, a little bit easier to digest. So, and not that I'm saying anything is horrible these days. We have so many good things out these days.
And actually,
personally,
I thought there's been more of a return to good storytelling in the last 2 years, especially when
right.
what was available before.
Yeah, and I think there was a turn. I want to say like the early like 2010s. There was kind of a return to like getting good writers on good books, and then pairing them up with a really good artist, whether it was up and coming artist or really good, well known artist. And now I think we're starting to see, like 10 years later, we're starting to see the fruits of the labor, right? So like Scott Snyder was the new hot guy and he came in like 2011 or whatever with his Batman run. And then he kind of took like James Tynion under his wing. And now Tynion's a big guy with a lot of writing. So we're starting to see the fruits of the labor of that good writing, just keeping up the momentum going. And yeah, comics are especially in the writing world, really good. And I feel like also with art, different types of art are more acceptable now, right? There was house style back in the day, and now you can have art that looks like it was drawn with a crayon and then smudged over, but people will accept it if it fits, the work. So,
what I like going on nowadays too is I've always been a big horror guy, and you didn't see a lot of horror for a long time, and now horror is back and really prevalent. And I've really been especially Scout Comics horror titles I find great. Like I just read Children of the Grave last week, and that was amazing. Yeah. But there's been a lot of great horror, and that first Bunny Mask this week was good.
I've heard good things about Bunny Mask. I haven't read it yet, but I did pick up an issue today. Managed to find one. So
Bunny Mask, Nice House by the Lake. Those two great ones that came out in the last couple of weeks.
Hey, Cup, one of the questions I've been asking on my show, 10 Questions, you like how I made that about me, Gary B.
It's okay. You're allowed one. Everybody gets one.
That's the only one. All right, so one of the questions, but it kind of goes along with what we're talking about here, is, there seems like there's a lot of people that are moving towards the indie titles as far as story. Mm-hmm. And maybe away from the big two. I still buy a lot of DC. I think the storytelling in DC is really, really good right now. I'm not a big fan of some of the things going on in Marvel, but all the indie stuff seems to be pretty solid. And do you feel that way, that people are moving more towards indie titles in a lot of ways? And do you yourself do that?
Yeah. So growing up, I would say I was always like a big Marvel guy, and then I was always a DC guy, right? And then Image came along, and I was like, oh, Image is cool. But I only picked up a few, things from Image, not too much. So for me, like indies was always like, oh, that's where the flashy artist goes to just, make a little bit more money or whatever. And the writers don't really go that way. The big guys kind of keep them, pay them the extra money, right? I feel like these days, right, between Image, Boom, you could throw Aftershock in there, Scout Comics, there's just so many good indie run companies out there that are investing in these guys and, giving them a share of their books and stuff, that I think the creativity is exploding these days because they're allowed to be who they are. There's no sticking to this formula or this universe or having to stick to this, way of telling a story or this is what happened with the character in the past, so this is where it has to go in the future, right? Mm-hmm. They're allowed to create these characters and just, go with them any way they want. And I feel like that is really leading to some awesome storytelling. Also some awesome art. I like Proctor Valley Road. That's a great
I
one.
do too. It's a good one.
Yeah,
That is
that's a
really
good
awesome.
one.
And it's just, yeah, I think I found myself, I'll get my stack of books, right? In the past, it was like 60% Marvel, 30% DC, and then like 2 indie books. These days, it's like 70% indie. I'll pick up like 2 Marvel books. Like I'll go to do my weekly haul, and I'm like, oh, this week I only got 2 books. And one of them is Amazing Spider-Man. I just buy it because I'm a Spider-Man fan, but the book is like, to me, not that great. And then, the other one is, probably usually a pretty good one, like Immortal Hulk or something along those lines. But yeah, and then everything else is like, here's this boom title, here's Berserker, here's Nocterra, here's Silver Coin. And, I'm just pulling out now, like every video, every haul, it feels like, yeah, I'm pulling out like 80% indie. And like
my hauls have turned into that too.
What's that?
But I always have my favorite Marvel characters that I gotta read. And luckily, the ones that I really like have been written really well. And the people that are writing them are some of the people doing the best stuff in indies right now too. So it's been nice.
Yeah, and I even notice with for me personally, actually, like with the Marvel books, it's the lesser known comics that I enjoy the most, right? So like Savage Avengers.
So good.
Yeah,
Black Cat's amazing.
I do like the Daredevil, but that's Chip Zdarsky's just crushing it, and the Marauders, right? Of all the X-Men titles, like Marauders is like my favorite, and Jerry Dugan, who's writing that, is now going to be writing the X-Men title. Like he got, I guess a promotion you could call it, and he's going to write the regular X-Men title.
Nice. So that should help them out.
Yeah,
get you excited and get people excited for the X-Men again.
Right. Well, it's like a new book every week with the X-Men. So, and I think they're kind of going to run into this situation that they did in the 90s, where they were like 80% of the titles being published, and maybe one was a good one.
And I've been enjoying the indies, but I think I have a concern with them lately. Is they're trying to copy the big 2, as people say, too much with all these variant covers. Just focus more on the story. Don't put out 20 variants of your book.
Right. So
because I think their strength right now is in their storytelling, and I think that should stay the focus. But I know it's an easy way to grab money when you're up and coming. And right. some of these companies I don't even consider indies anymore. Like Image and Dynamite, they're big. Right. They've been around a while. Now it shouldn't just be the big 2 now. It should be like the big 3 or the Fabulous 5 or whatever you have. You got some Fantastic
4.
You got some good publishers now that are established and aren't going anywhere. They're not really indie companies in my brain anymore. Like I don't consider Image an indie comic publisher.
No.
Right. Yeah, with the amount of titles they put out, right, and the names that work for them, they have just as much clout as any of what you would consider the big 2. Interesting thing that I heard. So I live in New York, and Scott Snyder is a friend of the comic shop I go to, the local comic shop. Nice. And so he said that Nocterra, I don't know if you remember this, it was had a Kickstarter attached to it.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so there was a Kickstarter attached to Nocterra, and he said part of the reason they did the Kickstarter is because Image is basically just a publishing company, but they don't, they're not on the creative aspect, right? The artist or the writer gives them the book and they put it out for them, but they don't do any of the other creative stuff. And so when COVID hit, Image, there was delays, a lot of guys couldn't get their work out in time. And they couldn't ship their books out, right? And their number one thing is shipping these books out and getting a part of the profits. Now, if they can't ship the books out, they don't really have all that merchandising deals, all that, all that other kickback that a lot of the other big 2 have. So the reason that Nocterra had the Kickstarter is because Image basically sent out a note to all the writers saying, hey, we may not be here by the end of COVID. If we can't actually make money on shipping your books out. In the end, everything worked out, but because they didn't have those merchandising licensing deals like all the big 2 had for them. And I think that's why people, right, they're not as financially, solid or as liquid as the other guys. So even though the big two are just entrenched because they cannot make a comic for like the next year, and they're going to make.
Even those two aren't financially stable all the time. Marvel's been through their times where they've almost been out of business, and then they got saved by being bought by Disney. DC's had their own financial struggles, and they've switched owners, but it's COVID really messed up everything, and people found new ways to do business and new ways to be successful, and it really kickstarted, no pun intended, but a lot of creativity with people on how to get their books seen and in hands. I mean, we've had the people on the show like with Jason Douglas and Carla Nappi with their books. Like Duplicant was a great read. Parallel, which you've heard us go on about forever, about what a game-changing story that is and how it connects when you read it. But I don't know. So Noctera, I've loved. That's one of those titles that I thought has gotten better every issue so far, and I've thought every issue was really good. And I've felt the same about Ultra Mega as well. But what's your one go-to indie title right now that's just kicking it on all cylinders for you?
You know what? There's a couple. But if I had to pick one right now that I will go to the store and buy, I think it's the Many Deaths of Layla Starr. I like different things, right? And that's given me like a different thing, even from like a cultural perspective, right? It's given me like the Hindu like gods and a different perspective on how they work, but also they're kind of like situating them in like a corporate type of framework, and I just love the fact, and then I just love like the little idiosyncrasies of it, right? Like every issue, she comes face to face with the reason she's not really Death anymore, but she ends up not realizing it. Something happens, and as the title says, the Many Deaths, she ends up dying like right after she meets the guy, and then gets reincarnated several years later and meets the person again. But it's so many years later that she doesn't even recognize this same person who's the person who like put her out of her job.
And I'm sub to that. I'm just waiting to read it till I have all the issues.
Yeah, no, it's a really good creative story. Besides that, I'm really excited about Noctera. So I'm a big Scott Snyder fan, right? I've been like since 2011 when he came out with Batman. I've just followed him, but I felt like a lot of his creativity was stifled when he was at DC, not because he wasn't a great writer, right? Like when he did his own Batman thing and created his own Batman universe, it was great, right? But then when he took on like the Justice League and he was forced to like, you got a framework you got to apply. Right. It was kind of like, you're good, but I don't know. I'm not digging it anymore. And then he did Noctera, and I was like, finally, like it's a vehicle where he can excel, And so I've really been digging it, and I feel like it's a return to like his old roots.
You see, and this is Noctera is my introduction to Scott Snyder, so I am like 100% impressed right now.
Right? Yeah, just don't go backwards. Don't read any of the stuff.
Well, I think Jimmy, you're a fan of Scott Snyder.
Oh,
right?
I love Scott Snyder. Yeah, Swamp Thing. He did Swamp Thing. He did American Psycho, I think it was at one time. Is that what it's called? American Vampire, thank you. I actually like the Justice League run okay compared to a lot of the others, but that's probably me being more of a homer than anything. The New 52 Batman's phenomenal, and I love Undiscovered Country.
Yeah, Undiscovered Country is really good too. I have all of the Justice League run. Don't get me wrong.
I do too.
I feel like it was his best work. I felt like he was constrained in that one. Like he's still a great writer to me, and the artwork I thought in that run was pretty phenomenal. I just didn't feel like it was his best. If I was going to rank it, it'd be somewhere, not in the top 5. So, but like his other stuff, like American Vampire, amazing. Like I love all the early American Vampire stuff. He's one of my favorite writers, and he's a writer that I come in contact with a lot, just going to cons and this location. Every time I see him, he doesn't know me, but he's like, "You look familiar." And I'm like, "I've been to like 20 of your signings." So
I just thought, yeah, that's no big deal.
I actually have a question for you. One of the first videos of yours that I ever watched was you had sent a book off to get graded that you had signed by Stan Lee.
And about that. Yep.
And you were so disappointed, right? I think with the grade that you got. And I even messaged you, like I wasn't a big commenter. I was like, dude, you got the experience, don't sweat it. It's all good. Right. I wonder how you feel about that book today. Like, are you still disappointed, or are you like, oh, I've got this book,
So I was always pretty sad about it because I knew the truth about the book. And when it came back, I had a not the best grade, and they dinged it because they were like, the signature is not authenticated.
That's right. Yeah.
So, so I have a good thing and a bad thing about that book. So I did contact them, and they got back to me, and they said, yeah, we're going to send it back to you for free. We're going to send it back, see if it's certified, and see if it's certifiable, whatever. So, all right. So I send it back. Now I send it back, and the guy's like, just send it to my office. Don't even, use this usual mailing address, all this other stuff. So I'm like, all right. He's like, just put a note in the box saying, what the deal is. So I send it off, and it's like 10 weeks later, and I've heard nothing. And I'm like, CBCS sold my book. They just stole it. It's gone. It's gone. So I send out an email, and I'm like, hey, I sent the book back. I haven't heard anything. I know, like, we went through some unusual channels. Just an update on whether you got it or not. So like another 2 weeks go by, nothing. So I'm sitting in my office, and I'm about ready to write another email, and I get an email, and it says CBCS, and I'm like, oh, all right. So I open it, and the guy's like, hey, great news. And I'm like, sweet. And I like read it, and he's like, we're sending it off to get authenticated. And I'm like, it's like 3 months later. Like, so yeah, it goes.
The great news is they didn't take you home with them.
Right. So, yeah, but literally like 3 days later, the guy's like, hey, listen, it arrived. The guy looked at it. It's fine. It's good. He didn't actually say that it was authenticated, but he's like, good news. We're sending it back to you. We took a second look at it. And I'm like, still like, what does that mean? So I like, sent it back, and he's like, it was authenticated. I was like, okay, cool. Like, he never mentioned it was authenticated, but then he did. In the second email, he did. So they mail it back to me, and I get it back, and I actually have the book here. So it got the yellow label, which is great, but it still had the same grade it had when I sent it out. So I emailed the guy again, and I go, hey, I realized that the grade is still the same. He's like, was it something else that dinged the book? And he goes, no, part of it was the signature. It probably would have got a better grade if we regraded it. And I was like, so you just authenticated it, but never regraded it. And he's like, yeah, we just authenticated it, put it back in the slab, and mailed it back to you. Oh, God. So I was like, oh, and it was like, never in the conversation did we talk about regrading it. And I was just, I assume.
I would take that for granted.
Right. Yeah. When you authenticate it, then you're going to regrade it. But no. So the guy was like, you can send it back. I have no interest in like selling it. It's my book. I just know now it's in a protected slab. It's probably like an 8.5 instead of a 7.5. Whatever. If I want one day, I'll bring it to a con or something maybe and hand it off and ask them to regrade it. But I'm fine with it having the yellow label. This is going to go on a wall somewhere behind me when I feel like hanging it up, and it's fine. But the saga never ends. So this was like a 2-year process. So, and I'm sure if I mail it back, it'll end up being a 3-year process.
Now, you've been to a lot of cons before?
So I've been to about 3 different cons, all local in the tri-state area. But the main one I've been to is New York Comic Con. I've also been to like the Big Apple Con, and then I've been to one in Connecticut called the Sun Con or something like that. But yeah, I haven't been to particularly a lot of cons in general, but I've been to New York Comic Con. If I go this year, we missed last year. It will have been 9 years straight that I've been to New York Comic Con that they actually hosted one. So 2020 doesn't count. So,
now, have you missed that experience going out and just being in the crowds and just getting the whole thing?
Yeah. So I think part of, why like I even created my channel was I just missed having that camaraderie with people who are in a like hobby. And not only a like hobby, this is a hobby that you could just walk up to somebody and usually just start up a conversation, and they know something that you don't know about comics, and you know something they don't know, and everybody's just happy that you're just spreading this information, happy to hang out, have a good time. Now at cons, sometimes it's a little crowded and, you
Right.
can't really get that experience. But on certain occasions you can, and, you all go to like panels and you go to Artist Alley, and everybody's really all excited about the same thing. There's really not too many people who are,
and that's something that comics and sports have in common.
Right.
You can have a comic character on your shirt, or you can have a sports team on your logo on your t-shirt.
Yep.
And someone that sees either one of those, you instantly have a common ground that you can speak to.
Yeah.
You have a conversation starter, and then it goes from there.
Yeah, and there are big similarities between sports and comics. I'm a big fan of both, honestly. I love sports, love comics. If I had to choose between both, I don't know. I might just jump off a bridge because I don't know.
Right. Oh, I know, right? Because I'm a huge hockey guy.
Right. So, yeah, like you said, it's like, right. You can go to a sporting event, and when you're 20,000 or 50,000 or 80,000 deep, and you're all cheering for the same thing, there's just a chill or something that comes over, your hair stands on end, and it's like kind of the same thing when you get a comic story and you get to the end, and like the ending is just so perfect, and everybody can just talk about it. You get that same tingle when you're talking to people about it, and I think I missed that right in 2020 when I had to, stay home and you're getting the mail order comics. There was something missing from that when you weren't able to go to your local shop or something like that. So I think part of like just creating my channel was just connecting with people. It was like, you know what? I need events. I need to get out my excitement. I need to share, what I'm doing.
Oh, yeah.
So the way.
Like all of us, you could only be inside for so long.
Right.
Not being able to go here. Oh, I can't go in a restaurant anymore. I can't go in a mall anymore. I can't go.
Right.
But, and like Jimmy and I and Chip talk about too, it's, in this community, you start making friends too.
Mm-hmm.
I still remember the first day that Jimmy contacted me and begged to be my friend, offered me chocolate, flowers, said he'd fly me down and go out to dinner. And I never forgot that. No.
Wait for the dinner though, but
But him and I just started, but we were actually just watching each other's channel. Just like I happened to find Chip and was watching him. And we all start talking to each other. Next thing you know, you got a friendship and you're talking to each other on a daily basis and you're having these conversations you never had before.
Right.
So has that journey been kind of the same for you as it's been for all of us?
Yeah. So, I mean, I definitely have at least, I'd say there's at least like 4 or 5 people who I talk to sort of regularly that I've gotten from the channel, right? And you have your usual people who comment on your channels, right? And you develop little relationships with them. And like some of them have nicknames for me that, just you wouldn't have developed if you didn't meet these people doing the channel. And then there are people, you get Instagram and then you start talking to people on Instagram, and then, eventually sometimes you'll share a number and you get a text message or something. People ask you for advice, or they'll just say, if you ever need anything, let me know. Like I've done videos where I'm just like, I missed out on this book, and I'll get 2 or 3 responses on like Instagram that's just like, hey, let me know if you need something. My store still has 3 or 4 copies, and they're not trying to charge you any extra. They're like, if you just want to pay shipping or whatever, I'll get you the book. Sometimes
that
it just
happened to me today. I missed out on the Supergirl book. I was actually really interested in it. She's on the cover with a sword. I was sold that sword. So I'm simple, powerful woman with a sword. I'm in. Yeah. But then my LCS was sold out, and then Comic Burrito reached out and he's like, "Hey, did you read Supergirl?" I'm like, "Huh?" I'm like, "No, I wanted to. They didn't have it. All right, I'm going to send you one." I'm like, "Oh, all right." And he goes, my comic shop has stacks of them. I'm like, "Well, awesome." Right. But what other community does that, No,
I don't know. And I've talked to people who are in other communities, and they're like, yeah, comic community by leaps and bounds support each other way more than any other community. And a lot of hobbies, like a lot of other hobbies are cutthroat, right? Everybody just kind of wants, that toy or that card or whatever that's worth $500, and they'll push you right over for it. Whereas I feel in the comic community, a lot of times I was watching Comic Burrito last night, and apparently they left the book on the shelf. They could have took it and flipped it but they decided to leave, one copy on the shelf for somebody else just so they can read it. And it's stuff like that I don't really think you hear about in other hobbies, So that's another thing that's really great about the comic community, right? Is we all support each other. I know there's times I'm at work and I'm trying to open up my YouTube, and I can't always reply, but I'm gonna let go on somebody's channel and just let it play, just so they can get those watchable stuff,
right?
And if I could support somebody that way. And sometimes I'm like, I just wish I could throw up a comment, but I'm also not the guy who's just going to throw up a comment and be like, hey, I want to watch the video and I want to say something about the video, like I really enjoyed this moment, or that's a really great comic, or I really love that cover. So I'll try to watch and I'll try to give the thumbs up, but if I don't actually get to sit down and really really enjoy what you did, I don't always comment, and because I don't want you thinking it's weird, but I know you on the other side, most people don't have an idea whether you watch the video or not, but I will only comment if I got to intake that the message that you sent or whatever you did. So I can watch it, I can thumbs up it, and I'll be anonymous, but I don't want to be the guy who's like, hey, great video, and meanwhile I just had it on in the background and never got a chance to interact with you. So that's me. I just want to be.
I do that at my job too, though, because I work a lot, and I'll put a bunch of videos on while I'm working, and that's my music. That's my background now, is YouTube instead of music. Yeah. But I do the same thing, and I'm not a big fan of FOC videos because I already know what I'm gonna get.
Right.
But having said that, the only 2 FOC videos I watch are you and Jimmy's.
Nice.
Because you and Jimmy present in a way that I like. You guys don't take 3 hours to talk about FOC.
Right.
You guys hit the highlights that most people are looking for, and you highlight a few extra things, and it's really good that way.
Right.
And literally the only 2 FOC videos I watch are you two guys. Everyone else, I can't stay in there for 3 hours watching an FOC video.
Yeah, that was my thing with when I wanted to do an FOC. First of all, I wanted the comics to be the star. So when I do my FOC video, you don't see my face at all. You're just hearing my voice. I want to get the books up there as quickly as possible, and I want to just go through them. And like you said, I'll highlight 3 or 4 books. And I'm not trying to. When I do the FOC, what I'm trying to do is share the books that you might be missing, right? That are coming out. A lot of times I've heard people saying, I couldn't get the book because I didn't know it was coming out, and then it was hot, and then I missed out on it. So I feel like with FOC, you can reach out to your comic shop and be like, hey, this is coming out in 3 weeks. Can I get the book? And that's kind of my theory behind it, is just let me shoot it out there. If you catch it, if you like it, it's fine. If you don't like it, it's whatever. You don't have to know what book's coming out 3 weeks from now, so you could skip it. I don't even look at the views really with the FOC. I just want to share what's coming out and then highlight a couple of books that I think might be of interest. And like I said, it's all about the books. My face is never on that one. I'll throw up. Obviously, I'll throw my logo and stuff and be like, subscribe. but yeah, that one is just about books.
I gotta know, because I've wondered since I started following your channel. Where'd you come up with Couple Comics?
All right. So Caps on Comics, I think that's what is FOC. That's final order cutoff. So that's before the books go to the printer. You can just order some books through the usually through whatever shop you go to. And then what I usually say in my videos, a lot of online shops will save you up to 30% on a book if you order it early. So that's another reason to look into FOCs. You save a few bucks. Now, with that being said, don't forget to support your local comic shop as well.
And my local comic shop does the previews catalog. So if I get my stuff in the previews before FOC, it's automatically sitting there waiting for me when I go. I'm guaranteed that copy off the shelf. And that also gives your LCS, it helps them do business. It gives them a more accurate way to order the amount of books they need to order. So not only can they meet demand, but they can have not too many books or not too little books to meet that demand. It really gives them a more accurate gauge of what to stock in their store, because they have to order enough to have a little bit of back stock. They don't want to sell completely out because you want to have something there for new customers wandering in. So it's kind of a game that they have to play every week with whatever's coming in. And people that don't know comic shops, it's all inventory management. It's so much inventory, and you can get buried by it, or you can manage it properly. And you're still going to have hits and misses, but there's a lot you can do to minimize your losses when people are using final order cutoff and their previous catalog and have a pull list with you.
Yeah, and I don't know if everybody's seen this. What if you've gone to the Previews World website now? You can create an account which links to your comic shop.
Yep.
You can have you can just get your pull list right off the internet now. That it'll go to your comic shop, and you're still supporting your local comic shop that way because they're the ones ordering the books, so they get it on their whatever program they use, and it tells them that you want this book, and it goes right there, and you can get it ahead.
And then you get an email when it arrives at the shop.
Yeah, it's a really great system now, and it's about time. Like, we're so sophisticated that it's about time they came up with something like that makes it so easy, and also lets you just support while you're looking at this major distributor's website, lets you support your local comic shop. So it's all right. So you asked me about my name, Cup of Comics.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll get back there. Not that I was deflecting.
No, you're good.
There's
You're
a
good.
secret he doesn't want to tell.
No, it's Kenny Caps, man. Kenny Caps threw us off like he always does.
He always does. Yeah. It isn't him, it's Nick.
So
Gotta pick on Kenny.
So my nickname is Cuppy. I got that in college. And so one day, I was just talking to some friends, and I was like, I'm thinking about starting a YouTube channel. What should I call it? And we came up with like all these other names, and then I was just like, how about Cup of Comics? And they were like, kind of rings, and whatever. And the rest from there is history. Like, I was like, yeah, we're gonna just go with Cup of Comics. It just sounds like something that
It's catchy.
that just sounds like something I'm gonna do. So I will go into how I got the nickname Cuppy, though. So in college, I played football. I was a football guy, and so one day I'm in a class. It's like a lab, and one of the other guys on the team was like, "Hey, Cup, what do you want to do for lunch today or whatever?" And the professor's like, "Excuse me," and he's like, "Yeah, his nickname's Cuppy." And he's like, Cuppy. He's like, Cuppy. Why do they call you Cuppy? Cuppy. And I'm like, all right, well, I was like, when you're on a team, right? Have you ever seen somebody like, high five, slap on the butt, whatever.
Right.
That's how I got my nickname. And he's like, you can't leave it there. Go deeper. So I was like, most people get slapped on the ass when you play sports as congratulations. I was like, you don't want to be like, good job, Bob, right to the head. You don't want to knock somebody out with a concussion. I've actually seen that happen. Or you don't want to hit them in the shoulder. There's a lot of parts you don't want to hit. They're all important. So I said, I just give a slap on the butt. When somebody comes by, it's meaty, it's fat, you're not going to hurt anybody. And the professor's like, do that again? And I was like, it's just, and he's like, you're making a cup with your hand. And I was like, yeah, that's why everybody calls me Cuppy.
You had me worried for a second. I thought you were tapping the cup in the front.
No, me too. I thought that's where that was going.
I wasn't doing taps. No, you don't want to go down that road. There's just too much when you're an athlete in the locker room. There's just too much that can go wrong there. So then they asked me why you do the cup thing. And I said, all right, well, because you're trying to contour to the shape of the backside, right? So it's creating a vacuum seal. You're forcing air from the area, and you're getting that clap. Now, if you do the open hand, you don't get quite as much, but if you cup them, you get a certain sound.
You get that percussion.
Right. Yeah, so you get that reverb or whatever. No, so yeah, the echo. So no, that's pretty much, so Cuppy then just became Cup, and then when I was trying to figure out the name with some friends, it became Cup of Comics. So it's that cross between sports and comics,
right?
Mm-hmm. So,
what position did you play?
I was a linebacker in college. I was a middle and strong side linebacker. Unfortunately, I dislocated some discs in my back and also tore my meniscus in my knee. So Yeah, that is the origin story.
Yeah.
So basically I went to see the doctor and he was like, all right, listen, you're gonna go pro? And I was like, probably not. Probably not. And he goes, all right, you can live a normal life and no surgery. Or he's like, you can go in, we can fix your back, and then a couple weeks later we're gonna go in and we're gonna shave your knee. And he's like, you're gonna do a bunch of rehab, and he's like, it's back surgery. He's like, there's no guarantee that you'll come out better than you went in.
Right.
And I was like, so why are we doing the surgery? He's like, because your back's weak, and a couple of hits more, and you'll have permanent damage. And I was like, oh. So, but he's like, without the surgery, you're probably not going to be able to keep playing. And I was like, oh. So I chose normal life over continuing to play. It was a difficult decision, but at the end of the day, it's a quality of life decision. So
right. I mean, if you're looking at possible paralysis down the line, why would you?
Exactly. And even with the surgery, there was no, there was possibility I'd come out worse on the other side and then better. So,
all right. So being a sports guy, you got to tell us your favorite teams. That way, Jimmy can tell you you're wrong.
Ooh, I feel like
I would never do that.
Avoid that because I was like, Jimmy's the big sports guy, and
I would never do that unless you're a U of L fan, and then you're dead to me. So,
no, so I'm a New York guy, but. So,
you better not like the Rangers, or else we're enemies right now.
Oh.
Islanders, I can take.
Okay.
See, I'm a Devils fan.
Oh no! All right, we're gonna start hockey. I am a Rangers fan, so sorry about that. Sorry, but not sorry.
We got to start screening these.
Yeah.
No, I'm just picking, buddy. Go ahead.
It's funny though, right? So I'm a Rangers fan, but my girlfriend, she's a bigger Rangers fan, and so one day I had a Boston Bruins jersey hanging in my closet. Now, a big part of my family lives in Massachusetts, and my dad's he's not a Boston fan, but he went to a game and he's like, you know what, I'll pick this up for Will. He's a big sports fan, so. I was very thankful. I was like, oh, awesome. So she comes over one night and my closet is like shifted for some reason. I don't remember why, but there's just this Boston Bruins jersey just hanging out in the closet. And she walked in and it was like and there was like another lady in my closet or something. She's just like, like gasped. And she's like, what is that? And I'm like, Bruins jersey? Got it from my dad. Like my voice was literally like raising and cracking, just the reaction to it, the visceral reaction.
I still love you.
Yeah. So I like pushed everything back, put it in the back of the closet. No. But I was like, listen, it's good to have that jersey, right? Because if I ever go to visit my family in Massachusetts, right, I throw that on, and if I'm ever stopped by because I have New York plates by a state trooper or something, I'm like, Boston fan, come on. Yeah. So not really from New York. I just live there. Nah.
Whose name was on the jersey?
It's with no name. It's nameless. So
because it would have to at least be Cam Neely for me.
Right. Yeah. If there was a name on it, Neely's good. Burr.
Yeah. See, Cam Neely was great. Unfortunately, he suffered a lot of injuries too. But whenever the Devils had to play against the Bruins, right, if Cam Neely was in the lineup that night, I counted it as a Devils starting out the game 0-1. They had to make up a goal.
Yeah.
If Neely was playing, man, for a big guy, he has hands. Like he could score from anywhere. He had the best touch with that puck. And if Neely was playing, it was almost a guarantee he was going to score that night. Every game he was in, he was fantastic to watch.
Yeah, he's definitely one of the guys I remember from back in the day. Yeah. And then right now, I mean, there's a lot of good fit. Personally, the guy I saw in person who in hockey who when I saw him live and I was like, wow, was Peter Forsberg. I had never seen a guy like that I'd never seen a guy on ice.
What team did you see him with?
I saw him when he was with the Avalanche.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah. And
when he was with Joe Sakic and them.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And it was just phenomenal to just watch him stop on a dime, skate around a guy 3 times, pass the puck, get it back, score. Like he was Yeah, and I mean they had Watt at goaltender. It was just that team was just pretty stacked. But to watch him live was pretty phenomenal. And that was on the Garden Ice, and I just remember the crowd every time he had the puck. It was just like a big sigh. I was like, ugh. Like not him again.
So who's your favorite Rangers player then, being a Rangers fan?
I mean, I think any Rangers fan who kind of lived through the 90s is going to say Mark Messier. Mark Messier, Adam Graves, Brian Lee.
I thought Richter was their best player.
Richter was really good. I mean, he was great. And I mean, their backup, they had Peter Van Beesbroek. He was also great. They were actually a really good team. I mean, you had guys like Buka Boom, Esatikinen. I mean, I'm going back. McTavish.
Oh, yeah. No, I remember all of them.
Yeah, they got Gretzky. I mean, that was back in the day when I like really watched them, and I really enjoyed that team. Great team. I mean, they only got that championship, but they had some really good players. I really enjoyed them. Even when Kovalev was there, I mean, he wasn't the bigger star he was when he moved on to like I think Pittsburgh or whatever, but he was just exciting to watch. He was like a guy with skill, so.
Well, I liked Richter too because he was a good ambassador for the game. He was just a good guy, Mike Richter.
Richter was a good guy, and we've had a decent streak of pretty good goaltenders for long periods of time. Between him and Ben Lundqvist was also a really good guy. So, Richter is definitely a crowd favorite. He was a guy who was really good, and people knew it, and that's why he was famous and an all-star, but it had nothing to do with like him self-promoting himself or none of that stuff.
He was a good sportsman.
Yeah. Whether win or lose, he kind of had the same kind of attitude. So, that was back in the heyday when I really enjoyed watching hockey. These days, I still enjoy it, but I'm not as big a hockey fan. I'm really more into football and baseball these days. Very little hockey and basketball, but I still watch a game here and there. I still keep up with the teams. It's a big sports media. So I live and die by sports radio out here. So I'm usually pretty caught up.
Weird watching sports with no crowd. It feels odd.
It does. It feels empty, right? It's like,
and there's no clapping and the noise in the background. They got it piped into the stereo. I'm like, right?
That's the weirdest part. There's nobody there, but you can still hear a crowd clapping.
You hear the chitter chatter in the background. Yeah.
What is this? That was like when Fox used to do the tracker with the puck.
Yeah. I hated the tracker.
Yeah.
I was like, stop giving me these artificial things.
And not only that, I mean, all sports. And, people are like, oh, I can't follow the puck. If you follow the play, you always know where the puck is. It's like in any sport. If you follow the play, you know where the ball is. You know wherever the play is where whatever the object they're trying to control is at.
Right.
Just follow the play. It's not difficult.
Exactly. I don't know. I do enjoy a good play action pass though in football where the camera follows the running back and then they're like,
I love that.
And then they got to go back. Oh,
who's your football team?
So I'm a big Giants fan. Dear Giants. I grew up during the era of I got to see Lawrence Taylor towards the end, and a couple of one of my earliest football memories, I guess, was the '86 Giants. That was probably the year I started watching football. So. That kind of got me in there. And then, to this day, I'm just a big Giants fan. In college football, I'm actually a Florida Gator fan. So that's the team I like to root for. Being from New York, there's not many college football teams out here. And also, my dad was in the military, and we were basically in Florida for about 12, 13 years. So that was kind of about the time that I was playing high school. I started playing high school football, and I latched on to the Gators as kind of that team back then. That for me it was the Steve Spurrier show, the air raid or whatever, the Fun and Gun.
Oh yeah, he used to drill us every year, and I know Kentucky hadn't beaten Florida in 31 years, and we finally beat them like 2 years ago, right. And it was the biggest party in Kentucky you've ever seen. I've never been so excited in all my life.
They tipped over so many cows that night.
We did. It's unreal. It was unreal how many cows I tipped that night. It would blow your mind.
So we've heard about the football. We've heard about the hockey. What about baseball? Where are we at?
Baseball, I'm a Mets fan. So
okay.
We're going back.
You're okay with me then. You're okay.
I got no problem with that.
Not the Yankees.
I'm a New York Mets fan. Big thing is, right, so my dad is a Jets fan and a Yankee fan, and I'm a Mets fan and a Giants fan, right? So I grew up, kind of when the Giants were good. Jets were never actually relevant when I was growing up. And then on the baseball side, the Yankees were always better than the Mets. But the mistake my dad made was he brought me to a Mets game. My first baseball game ever was a Mets game in which Doc Gooden pitched, right? And it was against the Chicago Cubs. Doc Gooden pitched. I believe final score was 3-1. And Doc Gooden let up a home run, 2 hits, 1 run, complete game. And Darryl Strawberry hit a 3-run home run. And then they were playing defense left and right. And those were the memories that stuck with me. Instant Met fan. So
my very first baseball game was the Cincinnati Reds versus the Mets, and Doc Gooden pitched, and Darryl Strawberry went yard twice, and Cal Daniels for the Reds, he went yard 3 times, and that was the first baseball game that I ever really went to, and I was a Doc Gooden and a Darryl Strawberry fan, still am. I love those guys, man.
I think everybody loved Darryl Strawberry, though. He was just one of those guys.
He's very charismatic, yeah.
Him, Barry Bonds, those type of players.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, being a Giants fan, how good does it feel to you to know that they were always the kryptonite to the Patriots?
Right. So, I mean, I honestly love it. Every time they show up, I'm like, yes, this has got to be a win. So I feel so there was a certain dread the year we played them and they beat us in the regular season, but we gave them a really good game. It was really tight, and then we played them and going into that Super Bowl though, that one in particular, that one. There was a certain calm with that when we played them in the regular season and they only beat us by 3 points. It was all right, there was something different about that game. And then every year since then, it's just it's the Patriots, whatever. So, but yeah, it's the rest of the league now that we have trouble with. So maybe if we treat the rest of the league like the Patriots, we might do a little better.
And we turned into a sports talk show tonight.
I know, all of a sudden. It's all good, though. I love sports. I'm like Cup. I love sports, and I love comic books. That's my 2 loves.
I felt like if Ricky Henderson played today, he'd be a lot better because just the way, the game is played today, he'd be a bigger star in today. They definitely things he did. The things he did are exponentially worth more in today's game than they were back when he was there. And what else? Oh, I did see. Spider-Man was at the Mets game. Yankees never had that. That's true. I went to a game where Spider-Man was at the game, and that was awesome. I remember walking down the street, and my friend knew that I was a big Spider-Man fan, and Spider-Man was up the block, and they go, "Hey, Spider-Man!" And he turns around, and they're like, "It's his birthday! Take a picture!" So it was pretty fun.
Now,
so I don't
comics.
know. So, I don't really know much about your background, but when did you start collecting comics? Have you always done it your whole life, or is this?
So
I'm pulling a Jimmy Yance question off of his list of when did you start and what brought you back? And
So I think. Well, the what brought you back question too, right? Everybody usually has a beginning time, and then they lose interest or whatever happens, and then eventually you get sucked back in. I'd say early 90s, late 80s was kind of the big collection time, which was 90s were a big collection time for everybody, right? So I jumped in right before the explosion of the Lees and the Liefelds and the Lobes and
Silvestri,
right? So I was kind of in there before that, and then I was in for the 90s. I have a ton of early 90s comics and early image books and all that, and then I think it was just the flood and everything just kind of looking the same, and the lack of storytelling, and I was like, all right, we're gonna move on. But it was actually my parents who got me initially into comics, because they used to buy me a ton of toys, right? And Spider-Man toys and DC toys and Batman toys, and I just remember having all these toys, and I wish I still had them. Like I had some of the original like Marvel toys, which, you know, if you look on eBay now, you know, unopened out of the box, $100 and whatever, and I'm like, Mom threw away my toy chest, and all of a sudden I'm like, mother. But they really supported like the comic thing before I even knew what it was, and so I grew up surrounded by a lot of the comic characters. My dad used to read comics when he was a kid, and so yeah, it was just a normal part of my life. I think growing up, I didn't realize growing up that, like, you know, if you were a comic book guy, you were kind of like, I was in the era when it was kind of like not cool, so it was like geek or nerd or whatever,
right?
Yeah. And then I never knew that though. My parents were like, you know, comics were around, and then I guess as I got older, people were like, "Oh, you still read comics?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you don't." Like, I didn't understand.
What's wrong with you?
Right. And now it's totally changed, right? We're in a world where, like, you don't know who, you know, Spider-Man is. What's wrong with you? Or you don't know who, you know.
Right. Where was this when we were growing up, right?
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think about mid 90s is when I actually fell off. And then somewhere it was like the 2010s is where I picked back up. And that was with, like I said, Scott Snyder. So when I actually first started, right, and like metal right here, I have up here, Scott Snyder Batman book kind of brought me back into it. And there was a horrible series by Marvel, Fear Itself, that came out back then. And that kind of brought me back in because the premise was really good, right? It was like, what if you know, Odin's brother Fear came back and terrorized the Marvel universe, and then all these other characters kind of got transformed, like the Juggernaut and Hulk, into like these fear-mongering creatures, and it was okay, but there was a hard shift, and I almost gave up on that. But it was things like the DC books at that time that kind of kept me still reading it, and then Brian Michael Bendis and his Miles Morales kind of got me in, and then the Spider-Man run at the time, which was who did that one? Dan Slott's Spider-Man kind of got me intrigued again. That was good, a good run he had a really good run. And then when he went to Superior Spider-Man, that also like really, that solidified it, and that's when I really started picking up the books, and I was like, oh man, they turned Doc Ock into Spider-Man and Peter Parker's dead. Like, I was like, I would have never believed, something like, and it happened for 2 years. Like, they're like, he's dead, and I was like, so I just couldn't let it go. I was like, I just got to follow and see where this goes. And so it was things like that, and it was like that commitment to writing, I think, that we were talking about earlier. That's a thing that's happening with the indie books now. And there was that transition to, like, we're going to let these writers, like, write their stories. And I think that's what, got me back into comics. It was like the big two were like, we need to do something different. We can't just keep being carbon cutouts. And when they let these guys do their thing, it's kind of like, that's what got me back into comics. And that's and since then I've just been a collector, and it progressively gets worse and worse with each week. I find myself
there's such an excess of good stuff right now.
Right.
And I think I left a comment to one of my people, like, they need to another down cycle so my wallet can survive.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Do you collect anything else? Do you collect trading cards or anything?
No, so not so much in the sports cards. I've managed to stay away from that, though my friends are constantly like, you collect so much stuff, collect cards, either they're like, put it on your channel, and I'm like, I can't do that. Like, it's just so hard to just be a comic collector. I don't want to do that, but I am a collector of just trendy things or whatever. So, like, I'll collect Pokemon cards, right? Or I do get sports cards sometimes. I don't have any right here, but sheesh, like I'll buy like Magic the Gathering cards, right? Anything that's like kind of niche. Right? I got more Pokemon cards here. I'll collect, like if I see like these playing cards, the Marvel playing cards, like Legos. Oh, here's the one, right? Everybody's got a few of these. Right? So yes, I have. I do. I collect a lot of things. I'll get action figures, but there's not one straight thing besides comics that every week I have to collect, right? Comics is my weekly, monthly fix. Everything else is like, oh, that's cool. I'll get a few of them, and then I can kind of move on, you know?
Right. And the thing with comics is you get a story and you connect with it in a different way.
Right. So, and I think all my other collecting, right, kind of comes out of comics, right? So like my pops are mostly going to be comic related or even video game related, right? Things like the Pokemon cards and stuff. That's stuff I watched on TV growing up, Saturday morning cartoons or after school cartoons, right? But everything is kind of related in some way to things I just did as a kid or comics. So
I collect basketball, which I collect Kentucky guys. That's who I collect, and I'll collect, usually I have a certain thing I like to collect, which is their autographs and their Kentucky uniforms. There's contenders. There's also flawless and national treasures that I collect. But they're usually in their collegiate uniform. And then I usually try to get one of the rookie cards, usually a memorabilia card or an autograph card for the Kentucky guys. But that's all I really collect. Trading card. Well, that's a lie. I will buy rookie. I like baseball cards, like rookie cards. I think one of the first videos Gary B commented on, I'd bought a Cal Ripken Jr. rookie card, and I showed it on my haul video that week. And so I still buy cards like that from time to time. But comic books for me is the thing that I just, like Gary B said, it's just the story, and there's a lot of nostalgia for me with comic books.
Well, Kentucky sports cards, like especially basketball team, I mean, I can imagine those can get expensive. There's a lot of good guys out of Kentucky.
Listen, the Knicks, in Kentucky, we call the Knicks the Kentucky Knicks because there's so many Kentucky guys on the team. Like that's the professional team that we have adopted because Quickly, Randall, Nerlens Noel, all Kevin Knox, all those guys played for Kentucky. And then, I became an NBA fan because the Kentucky guys, we got so many guys in the league. I started watching the NBA again because there's so many Kentucky guys. But yeah, no, the Knicks are kind of our adopted team right now.
Nice. And yeah, Kentucky's just a factory for stuff. And I do have a bunch of sports cards, but they're mostly like from the 90s and the 80s. I got to go through them though because they're just sitting at my parents' house and I don't know what I have in there. But honestly, like I just and also the thing is you can't. Well, for me anyway, I can't find sports cards anywhere. Even if I wanted to get into it, if I go to,
they're so scarce now that every place is sold out, and some places
they're so expensive
because of the fighting over them.
They're so expensive; it's unbelievable. I tell that story all the time about my uncle, but I mean, a pack of ball cards back then was like $1, $3. You could buy a box of basketball cards. All those Jordan rookies that I have came out of a box of cards that cost a box that cost $36.
Wow.
Yeah. It was just crazy back then. Now, if you want to get a flawless, like a case of flawless, it's $6,000. That's insane.
And that's probably the one thing that's keeping me from getting into sports card collecting too. Is just the sheer price of it because comics aren't cheap right now. Anyway, so they're not. It used to be if I got a stack this big. $20 was going to, do it back in the 90s or whatever. And now a stack this big is like $36, $40, $45, depending on what
that's even conservative. A stack like that's like $65, $70.
Right. Well, if you get you get that like the Venom that came out, $10. You get $10 here and there.
When Jimmy said he collected Kentucky guys, I had this weird image of my head of a bunch of people locked in his basement with a big lock on there,
I know.
trying to scratch an FBI message out on the walls and stepping over their slot bowls.
If it weren't illegal, I don't know. Who knows what I might do? Who knows? It's like, my kid. I really do it. So I've tried to stay away from pops because, like, I have a problem as it is. Like, I went into the comic book store yesterday. I usually go on Thursdays because I can't normally get there on New Comic Book Day. So I walk in and I'm like, well, I'm only going to spend $40, $50 a day. I've bought a bunch of other stuff. And then I end up buying the first Jane Foster's Thor, the What If, Jane Foster.
Oh, yeah.
I ended up buying that book while I was in there, ended up dropping an extra $75. So that's just, I have a problem.
Yeah, it's rough. And you know what? The other problem.
One of the best names on YouTube, Werewolf by Lunchtime.
Yeah,
That's good.
Well, yeah. Last time I went to the store, right? Yeah, saying I have a problem too. Like I walk in, I only had like a book on my pull, right? And it was like the Venom book, and like it was just the one book, and it's just sitting there on the counter, and I'm like, I can't just walk out with one book. So I'm like walking up and down the aisles, and what else am I going to pick up this week? And yeah, it's just I feel bad, like just getting one book. I'm like, I have to spread the wealth.
Yeah, I haven't spent enough money today. I need to spend some more money.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I feel sad because I haven't spent enough.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but I really did. I went and they just had redone the back issue bin. I went back in there and started digging around, and I found that book, and I was like, shit. All right, I guess I'm going to buy this one too.
Now, you were talking earlier about collecting in the 90s.
Right.
And all of us grew up on those great 80s and 90s cartoons. All of us watched the Super Friends. All of us watched 90s Spider-Man and X-Men.
Right.
What was your favorite classic cartoon back then?
So I was a big fan of. All right, so I remember watching a lot of Transformers. Right, that was my thing back in the day, and I remember watching like season 1. And it was like, yeah, this is awesome, right? And Transformers had like 40 something episodes. That was back when you had an episode a week, like
right.
So they were just churning them out. I mean, they must have had sweatshops, right? Because now everything's digital. I think they like you got your hand drawing, and they were just churning out like an episode a week. And I remember that was like my go-to until the movie came out. Transformers, the movie came out, and I remember it being so tragic because within like the first 5 minutes, like
right,
they
kill Optimus.
Yeah, they kill Optimus. Ironhide is like done. Like guys who were major players like are just gone. And like I had never seen a Transformer die, and they're like dying left and right in this movie. And then Optimus goes, and you're like, and
right.
like so I have this. Like I showed this to friends I grew up with, and I was like, guys, look what I picked up, and they're all like, we're sad now because this is like Optimus dead. Like,
right.
And they're like, It even says Fallen Leader Optimus Prime on the packaging. And I just, as a kid, that was just very traumatic for me. I was like, Optimus is gone? Like, no. So, like, Generation 2 came out. I was like, it's time to move on. Like, I need to watch another show. So I think after that, like, I transitioned to, like, Disney shows. I was watching, like, Tailspin and DuckTales and like
G.I. Joe, just in case they did something to them tragically.
I was like, I need something lighter. Gummy bears, I don't know, but no.
The Gummy Bears was fun.
But no, I was like, X-Men was definitely another fallback. G.I. Joe, Transformers, X-Men were like my big jams. Spider-Man was always a good one for me.
I think cliffhanger, they never resolved it on Spider-Man. I'm like, come on, just make one more episode and resolve it. Make it a movie, whatever. Just
something, right?
Do you guys remember?
You leave it like that.
Do you guys remember like those real cheesy Spider-Man movies that
the live action, the Nicholas Hammond?
Yes. Like, do you remember those? I love those. I thought those were the greatest thing ever when I was a kid.
I used to have a bunch of those on VHS.
I still have one on VHS.
For those of you who don't know,
a VHS player, but I have the VHS of it.
You cassette tape, but it plays video, and you put it in the machine.
Yes,
keep
youngsters.
waiting for them to come out on Disney.
So yeah, I don't know. That'd be great.
The bad 70s stuff. Did you guys watch that in that same era? Did you guys watch the TV Doctor Strange movie?
I did not see that. No, I remember the Hulk, right, with Lou Ferrigno.
Yep.
I remember the Captain America movie, I think,
with the clear plastic shield,
right?
The motorcycle. There was 2 movies.
And yeah, the one with the motorcycle, and there was like a Fantastic Four thing that was never supposed to come out.
Roger Corman.
Yeah,
I watched it.
Ooh, yeah, I don't remember watching that one, but I remember it was there, and I was just being like,
it's on YouTube. You can watch it on YouTube.
Oh wow. Yeah, but I remember a lot of those live action Marvel things. Don't remember the Doctor Strange one though. That's one I totally missed.
Yeah, it was it's weird. He's full 70s out, you know, the bell bottom slacks and everything.
Wow.
And yeah, Morgan Le Fay was the enemy.
Oh man.
But no, I remember that fondly, Jimmy, because no matter how bad it was, I still loved it because we were getting a live action Spider-Man.
Yeah, me too. It was so cheesy, and I loved every second of it.
I remember like the watching also the Adam West Batman, right? So when they like walked up the building, and I think they did some of that with Spider-Man. I feel like there were a few scenes.
Oh, definitely. You see him going up the building like this, but his hands aren't really touching it. You're like, come
right.
on, you can at least touch the building and fake it for us.
Right. But yeah, it was man, those were the good old days, watching those things and just being like, it was because you could spend, it was a suspension of disbelief, right? Like you could just believe it because it was like, I want this to be true, and I don't want the back then they didn't have the special effects like they do today, so it was a different era, but it was so much fun just to watch it and be like, wow, look at this. And now you watch it and you're like, it's still exciting, but with the special effects,
So now, not to wrap it up, but we've been going for about an hour and 15. I don't want to keep you here all night. And Jimmy and I both usually have to get up in like 5 hours when we're doing this show. So we're gonna start doing the wrap up now. And we didn't know if there was anything that you wanted to say in closing about your channel and what's coming up as we start to exit out here.
All right. So I have a video. What's tomorrow? Friday? Yeah. So I'll have my haul video come out tomorrow night. So if you want to check that out, go ahead. My FOC video will come out this weekend. And then I do a preview show on top of that. That'll probably be Monday. I'll have a Tuesday. I'll have an AOK video. So I have a couple of things coming up. But what I will say is I'm at 271 subscribers right now. And I'm closing in on 300, and numbers have never really been a big thing for me. But I feel like 300 is a third of the way to 900, which is only 100 away from 1,000. Weird math, I know. But for 300, for everybody who tuned in now to kind of learn who I am on this show in particular, right? On my next video that'll drop tomorrow night, if you do hashtag Cup of Comics. Let's do hashtag usual suspects. Anybody who does that, who watched this show today and puts that hashtag in my video tomorrow, I'll do a drawing for this X-Men 300 9.6 foil, right? Just for you guys for tuning in to this show.
Nice.
Yeah. So because I am nearing on 300 and you guys took the time and you guys here who brought me on the show, I really want you guys to get in on that too, just because you guys took the time to get to know me, and I just want to give back. Like Slotted Up, I literally commented on one of his videos like, I like that cover, and he sent me the cover. So I was like, everybody here is so giving, so gracious. So just you guys who are here, if you want to tell your friends, go ahead. But I'm not going to put it out into the universe. Like, I'm not going to make my video and be like, hey guys, I'm closing on 300. I want to give away this slab. It's literally for the people who are here tonight. You guys will be the only ones who are in on this slab, just because you guys took the time to get to know me, and I want to give back to the community in any way I can. If you want to hit me up on Instagram too, I'm always available to talk to anybody. Like, I just want to be out there and just want to be invested in the community. And, you know, that's really why I started. I just want to talk to people, right? And I think there's a thing, right? For some people, it's really easy to like talk to people and get out there. And I have like this kind of like little social anxiety. Sometimes I need other people to start the conversation for me. I'm just a little shy, I guess, to be like, you know, hey, what's up? How's this going? Sometimes I just don't know how to start the conversation. But once you get me going, I can keep going. Like, I just need that gas in the tank. Just put a little gasoline in the tank. But yeah. So like I was saying, I really just want to support the community. I want to get that out to whoever just tuned in today. That's for you guys. So tomorrow's video that drops tomorrow, that'll be my comic haul video. Just hashtag usual suspects. And that's really it. Like, that's all I have going. I mean, that's plenty. You know, I got a video tomorrow. I got a video this weekend. I got a video Monday. I got a video Tuesday. So that's all. And hopefully you guys enjoy. Like, I just want, when I'm on there, I just want to be like who I am, right? I want to be as real as I can. I don't want to be pretending to be somebody just to get subs or to get you to subscribe. I just want to make my content that I would, which is what I like, right? I'll say that in my videos too. I'm like, this is what I like. If you like it, hopefully I helped you, you know, find something you don't like. And if, you know, if you don't like it, I'm sorry. These are my tastes and my preferences. I'm not trying to skew my tastes and my preferences to any particular faction or whatever. So that's it. And I know you're trying to wrap it up, and I'm like, let me go on this 10-minute.
No, but we appreciate you giving back to the community, especially through our show. That's really, really genuine and nice of you. We appreciate that. And I know you got I encountered at least 3 new subs to your channel tonight in the chat.
Yeah, and thank you guys who, you know, took the time to sub. And I just want to say, like, Gary B, you do phenomenal work. You know, you support the community. It's awesome. Jimmy, I wish I can comment more on your videos, but you're usually the guy playing when I'm at work. But I do love the stuff you do. Jimmy shouted me out in a video in the past too. Like, I love the stuff you're doing, the Don and
Thank
Chip.
you.
I know you're new. I've only checked out 1 or 2 of your videos, but we're gonna get the ball rolling on this one too, guys. So I mean, every guy here brings something special to the community. So you know, everybody here on this side of me is awesome dude in the community, and you guys do so much for the community that, you know, it's really hard to like give that much. Like, you guys do a phenomenal job. So I just want to say thank you to you guys.
Oh, thank you. And we really appreciate you coming on. And, you know, every time I ask somebody to come on, I expect them to tell me no. And everybody says yes. Everybody's so gracious. So we'll start saying our goodbyes. What we like to do on the show, Will, is we'll start with the top guy. We're going to go with Chip, then Jimmy, me, and then we let you close it out and say goodnight to the audience. All right? You're the guest. You get the last goodbye. Mr. Gettler.
Hi. Have a good night, everyone. That's it.
You just got jimmied.
Keep it casual. And Will?
Comic fans, peace.
Love it.
Take care.
Awesome. Awkward moment.
Awkward.